lawyer and security expert, and also Jide Ologun, lawyer, public affairs analyst. Well, they're my guest on the show this morning. Very sad tale we're telling yet again. But some 2 years ago, we had the NSAS protest. And then the SARS, as we're told, has been disbanded. Apart from protest and civil disobedience, what way forward? How do you think the issue within the Nigeria police force can be resolved?
I think the Nigerian police force need to be sincere with itself and stop this public pretense. There's high level of incapacities in the police. Now, I'll give you an example. One of the major endemic problems in the Nigerian police force is what you call stray bullets, unguarded shooting. But the question is, what is the cause? Apart from the issue of impunity, let's leave impunity, because impunity may be such that to the public we are not aware. But inside they have their own provost marshal, they have their own disciplinary measure. Definitely, even if they cover you in public, you can't get away with it. You will definitely be dealt with. Now, but the police as a whole formation, how many shooting range do they have? Do they have any? I'm talking of standard shooting range. I'm not talking of taking people to the forest to go and be shooting. Nigerian police force, as we speak today, do they have standard shooting range where you have to train and retrain and train and retrain? Because when you talk about the trigger, handling the gun, it's a combination of not just the skill, it's a combination of your emotional balance, your intellectual balance. Everything about you as a person must balance. Because you know that you have the life of human being in your hand. When the gun is in your hand, there's this aura of power, though negative, that is in you. To what extent has the police been sincerely able to train its officer before you give them the gun? Many of them will tell you, I will shoot you and nothing will happen. And it has happened severally. Many have gone with it. Forget about whether you dismiss them, you redeploy them, and the like. People have died.
Let me hold you for a minute. Emmanuel has called in from OTUKPO in BENUE State. Good morning, Emmanuel.
Good morning, Uncle Nifemi. Good morning.
I've become an uncle.
You are worthy to wear Uncle Yori's cap. Greetings to your guests. This topic is so sad. But we still thank God it's a regular occurrence in our country. That's where we find ourselves. The woman in question is a lawyer, and the police, these people come from almost the same constituency. They are supposed to be the keepers of the law. But look at what has happened. But it will not be fine to say that the king's goat has eaten the king's yam. But there is wahala here. And we are waiting to see how they will go about it. See, I don't know. I think it's our legal system that is problematic. And by this killing, I will miss Ganifa and SAN very seriously, because he will be very mad with this kind of case. But what are they trying to investigate? This man has killed this woman in the full glare of the whole world. The husband was a witness, the sister was a witness, with all the children in the car. So what are they investigating? It is this impunity that is giving the policemen the courage to do what they are doing. And let me tell you, until we change our style and we begin to deal with them as we ought to deal with them, nothing will change. Very soon they go to court and they begin to speak English. But she has cut an innocent woman down. May God help us in Nigeria. God bless the country. Good morning.
Thank you so much for your contribution. So the longer it takes for the police to reveal the identity of this individual, the more room it gives people to fill in the gap. So we have a situation where, of course, we now know that he is an assistant superintendent of police. Some are saying he spent 33 years in office. Others are saying the police was drunk as at the time of that shooting. But help us understand, briefly, what this says about the police force. If you have an ASP, because he wasn't even the one who stopped the car, from the account of the deceased younger sister. He wasn't the one who stopped the car. I mean, the shooting came in from elsewhere while they were trying to maneuver that spot.
From previous reports that I read, I think this particular suspect had been involved in extortion and harassing motorists.
This particular suspect.
Within that axis, that report is online. So one would have expected that you don't take such reports lightly. You follow up, profile this person psychologically, which is one of the prompted engagements during the EndSARS protest. That, okay, we are not just saying stop extrajudicial killings and extortions and these anomalies. We are also saying let's improve the welfare of the police. Because what will make you go out there and the first thing you want to do is intimidate people with your authority. So if the force had risen to the occasion to invite this particular officer, sit the officer down, if you are tired of the system, find your way out, for the sake of the image of the police and for preventing others. There is what we call reinforcement theory in industrial psychology. What you allow can only, grow in stature. So if we have been preventing, because let's face the reality, when the story of Abiakari came out, it was like a joke. But the police discovered there was a need to deal with this. And that case had been isolated. And I'm sure that many of his colleagues who probably would have been aiding drug deals.
I'm thinking they are
exactly
untouchable.
And what this also puts on the table today is that we should not delay these processes. Like it's been revealed now, the suspect is known, and maybe his accomplices, then the investigation is short. We have what we call prima facie evidence.
That's right.
So if a report has to go to the Inspector General of Police, you can do that by IT device. There shouldn't be any. In fact, his office is so big that you can fly someone to Abuja to submit that report. There is a need to regain public confidence as a supportive factor. Because when you talk about the police is to ensure public safety and order. The police is to, uphold the laws of the land. The police is to prevent, deter and investigate illegal activities, not to be involved in illegal activities. And of course, if you have erring officers, we may argue that in all the sectors you try to profile, you may find those who are erring. Then you prevent them from becoming catalysts for others. For example, now, we also read about a soldier who was smuggling ammunition to terrorists. You see, so if you find them like that, nip it at the bud. Don't let it fester. Don't let others have the impression, like the reports we have heard, I will kill you and nothing will happen. No, you are not armed to kill. You are armed to protect the citizens and protect yourself.
Reverend Dominic has called in from ALIMOSHO. Good morning, Reverend.
Good morning, Femi. Good morning to your guests.
Good morning.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please go ahead.
I hear you.
Please, I don't know whether the PRO is still listening. I want to ask him a question. Who policed the police? Femi, if you listen to me now, I live in ALIMOSHO here. There's a particular bus stop here called Igondo. Every day, when I pass that road, I shook my head. Femi, I can carry 10 human head with gun and cocaine and pass that road. Do you know the reason I should pass? I'm not driving a flashy, saloon car. I drive a Jeep, and I'm elderly, I'm over 50. When they look at my face as elderly and I can defend myself, they pass you no matter how. But when they see these young boys, maybe with a flashy car, 2025, they will stop this. It's a show of shame every day. You will see them fighting with these boys, searching their purse, searching their phone. You will see these boys fighting a police officer who's supposed to be respected because of their character. Every day. If PRO is listening to me now, let me just send a message now. It's happening now. Who policed the police? Even the way police the nation is insecurity. You can pass them as long as you're matured, like my friends there. But if you are young, you won't pass them whether you commit offense or not. The question is this: who policed the police? So that we can have an example of security. I sympathize with this family. Since yesterday I had this news, I'm sad. Please tell me, could some of you go to the cell and call this man and say what happened? What made you to kill a woman and shoot a gun on the car with a woman, 2 women and children? What happened? So we can actually understand the psyche of this man. What prompted you? Were they like how many of us? Were they calling gun? What should make a police shoot women, children, and a man on a Christmas day. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Dominic. And you can feel the pain from his contribution. So there's a lot happening here, and there's a lot on my mind as well. You know, I shared with you the fact that there's the risk of generalizing that every policeman is wrong.
No.
And I don't think that is absolutely correct. But we've also had experience. You know, I usually would tell my wife that, say, anytime they stop you, just lift your hands up. Whatever they want. Because it is because of issues like this. You stay and fight for your right and insist on what is right. I mean, the person who has been shot is gone. So the question, for instance, is when you meet certain police officers who stop you and actively begging for money. And I'm not saying all policemen do that, but I have experienced such policemen.
We
stop you and say, I don't care who you are. I don't care if you have your papers. Just give me money. Is it a function of poor remuneration, like he said earlier? Because, crying out loud, I'm a journalist, and I don't think there's any journalist that is being paid, as it were, in this part of the world. But it doesn't mean that there are still a few journalists who will still do their job without looking for bribe and things like that.
Let me start by saying that it is not the police that taught the policeman on the road how to beg. I think there's a vulnerability that they are exploiting. The vulnerability of the average or many motorists not ready to do the right thing and always in a haste. So that becomes an opening for the corrupt police officer to exploit. Now, unfortunately, they also extend it to everybody with this presumption that an average motorist is definitely, flouting one law or the other. And it has now become an incurable habit in those that have developed it. Now, I'll tell you something. Senior police officers don't do it. If you have problem with the police, go to the senior police officer. You will see different policing entirely. But the rank and file, a police officer have accosted me, greeted me, and said, "Pastor, how are you?" I said, "I'm not a pastor." He
But
said,
wait, ASP is not
talking,
a senior police officer.
Yes, he is.
Yeah,
I mean,
yes.
you heard.
Now, let me tell you.
You heard the CSP say it was an ASP that shot the woman.
When he said, "Pastor," I said, "I'm not a." I said, "Are you not the pastor staying in that house?" He was pointing at the house different from. I said, "I'm not." But what I perceived, God just told me, "Oh boy, calm down. Whosoever you are, just calm down." And truly, God helped me that day. He had a gun. He was oozing with the thickest odor of alcohol you can ever imagine. But do you know the funniest thing? After the whole thing, he said, "I'm talking to you and you are eating." I was chewing at the egg in the car when I was going on my. He said, "I'm talking to you and you are eating." I said, "Sorry, sir." I said, "The garden egg was already in my mouth before." He said, "You are eating again." I said, "I'm sorry, sir." I didn't know what to do. I can't spill it out. And God helped me. I moved out of that day. But do you know one thing? 2 days later, I met him at Force Headquarters. I said, "Do you know me?" He said, "No, sir." I was coming from a senior officer's office. I said, "Do you know me?" He said, "No, sir." I said, "Did you work in this place and this place 2 days ago?" He said, "Yes, sir." "On this road?" He said, "Yes, sir." "And you did not know me?" He said, "No, sir. I don't think I'm sorry, sir." Now, it took me as one of the very senior police officers and the like, because I was at a Councilem house, and I accosted him. But you know the message there? Truly, he cannot recognize me again. So that means whatever had happened on that day would have just been sacrificed for nothing, because it was under the thick influence of alcohol. So at times, when you have interaction with them, just allow wisdom rather than your legal right to prevail.
Samuel has called in from Benin. Samuel, are you still there?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, my name is Samuel. I'm calling from Benin. There's something I would like to contribute.
Please go ahead.
Yes, some years ago, I had a privilege of working with some of my police counterparts. Then I was serving in the army, and I observed that some of them had their AK-47 with the safety of the AK-47 open. And for us in the army, that was not allowed. You know, your safety, the AK-47 safety, or even whatever rifle you are carrying, the safety must not be open until you are ready to fire. So I talked to my counterpart about his safety, thinking it was a mistake. He told me, no, that is how they carry their rifle. And over time, while I had the privilege of working with so many mobile police officers, I realized they always had the safety catch of their AK-47 open. So meaning that even by mistake, you can fire somebody. If the safety of your AK-47 is locked and your hand is on the trigger, it will not fire. But once that safety is open, it will fire, whether you intend to shoot or not. If that rifle has been cocked and the safety is open, your hand on the trigger, it will fire. Now, if you cock and the safety is not open, you will not be able to fire, whether your hand is on the trigger or not. So I don't know. Every time you hear accidental discharge, you hear this. And I feel that whatever, if it is part of their training at the Goza or whatever, that they have to have their safety open for quick response, I don't think that will make them have any quick response. Because these same police officers go for United Nations operations. They come with award. They don't fire anybody there. They follow the rules there. You come here and you say it is how you operate here. You can just do your own independent research, maybe at the bank or anywhere. You will see that the safety of their AK-47 is open. So for us in the army, it is not allowed. You can even go to the guard room as a soldier if an officer finds that the safety of your AK-47 is open. Why these accidents are happening? Can we just have a look at this angle too? That the weapon handling of the police should be reviewed. It is not enough whenever something happens, we come to the studio and talk about it. Lives have been lost. They should review their weapon handling. I think that nothing justifies a policeman on duty where there is no armed robbery, there is nothing happening, you are on normal routine patrol, your safety catch is open. And then when you fire somebody, we start talking stories. Before you to open it, you must have made up your mind you are going to shoot. But to open your AK, the safety of your AK-47 in the morning, from morning to evening, nobody is calling you for an emergency and you have the safety catch of your AK-47 open and you say it's your own rule as in the police. This is what my counterparts told me then. And since that time till now, even in Benin where I am, I see police officers carrying AK-47.
Thank you, Samuel, for that contribution. Very incisive. Yeah. And he's talking about weapon handling. But are you familiar with what the standard practice is?
You know, he has mentioned it and we have said it. The essence of carrying ammunition is defined. And here comes the ethical aspect and professionalism. And the officers who are entrusted with ammunition should be profiled to have the emotional intelligence to handle the ammunition. So it's part of the training that I mentioned the other time. And this is not just a one-off training. You consistently engage them, even right from the time they are picking that ammunition from the armory. And there should be accountability for it. And when any officer errs, then let there be discipline. Let it be known to others. And this issue of drunkenness and drug abuse and things like that, you also need to carry out that profiling. And you can monitor them. Because at the end of the day, what has happened now has rubbed on the image of the Nigerian police, even though not all officers are erring officers. Indeed. And it's part of the assignment of the structure of the police. If you read the vision statement, the mission statement, you know, the core values of the police, I mean, it gives you a picture of a citizen-friendly police and effective police. And we must see this being implemented. So what we learn from situations like this is to see how we can improve the quality, because the standard has been set in place by the United Nations. There's a global standard. Even the national policy has a standard. But it's the quality now meeting up with these standards.
We're wrapping up now. Let's talk about the implication of this on the police-civilian relationship. How many Nigerians still see the police as protectors of the citizen? And how can that be, fixed? Because if you do not trust the police, how does the police even do this? I mean, how do you do your job well if there's no trust?
Well, the only Nigerians, to the best of my knowledge, that see the police as protectors of themselves are the politicians. The average Nigerian does not see the police as protector of citizens. Rather, they see them as adversary many a times. They only go to them when they think that they don't have any other choice other than to go to them, or that they are legally compelled to go to them. I'm sure you have heard of several stories of people quarreling and they prefer to go to Amotekun, go to Vigilante instead of going to the police and all those stuff like that. That means that the police should look inward and begin to, for me, until you make a scapegoat of your own, and then you do it sincerely in such a manner that people are now saying that you are truly sincere about it. People, it will be difficult because it has taken some decades. You are talking of something that started in 1820, reformed in 1930. And today we are still more or less like the oppressive culture of the police till today. Until that culture is demystified, we will still keep having the same impression about the police. So if there must be a demystification, it means that the police must be...
A lot of work has to be done.
Yes, a lot of work has to be done. It can't be suddenly, but it can be gradually
That's
done
our time.
and be achieved.
We have to go now, but in this particular case, what do you consider to be justice?
Justice is to bring this officer after the suspension for prosecution and let justice have its way. But the biggest justice really is to become preventive and proactive so that we don't have extrajudicial killings rampant in our country, because whether we like it or not, we need the police system to have an organized society. So what we just need to do is to ensure that we keep refining the process so that we have an effective result from that sector of our national life. And on that note, we extend our voices to the Inspector General of Police to ensure that justice is really done. And I know the judiciary will be waiting, because the ecosystem of justice, criminal justice, is thorough investigation, diligent prosecution, and a committed judiciary.
Indeed. Jide Ologun, lawyer, public affairs analyst, thank you for joining us today. Tony Ofoyeto, lawyer, security expert. It's good to have you on the program. Well, that's our time.
Nigeria.
I'll be back tomorrow, God willing. Do have a gunshot-free day.
I like that.